You've probably seen many election maps before, but the 2024 election map based on the latest polls is not what you're expecting. Let's jump straight in to find out these amazing surprises. So we're going to start off with Alabama. Now there hasn't been any polls between Trump and Harris in the state, but if you look at the polls before that between Trump and Biden, Trump holds a very big lead. And so in Alabama, he is going to win this by a safe margin. The next state that we're going to look at is Alaska. The latest poll has Trump up by 8 points. So Alaska would be a likely margin. The next state that we are going to look at is the state of Arizona, one of the key 7 swing states. The latest poll has Trump up by 3 points. Now, Biden actually did win Arizona in the 2020 election by less than a percentage point. So this would be a flip for Trump in the 2024 election. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Arkansas. The last poll has Trump up by 15 points, which would be a safe margin for the former president. The next state that we're going to look at is Deep Blue, California. The latest poll has Kamala Harris up by 24 points. California has been one of the most democratic states in the country, and this really does come as no surprise. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Colorado. The latest poll has Harris up by 17 points. This does look like to be an outlier, as polls before that had Harris up by 10, 11 points. But now, with that new poll, this would be a safe margin for Kamala Harris. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Connecticut. The latest poll has Harris up by 16 points. This again does not come as a surprise. Connecticut voted for Biden by 19 points. So this would be a slight decrease from Biden's margin, but either way, that's still a Democrat safe margin. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Delaware. Harris is up by 17 points, and that would be a safe margin for the vice president. Now, if we look at the District of Columbia, there actually isn't any polls out of this, but the District of Columbia is the most democratic district/state, and so it's going to go into the safe Democrat column. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Florida. So, Florida was once a competitive state, but now it has taken a shift to the right, and the latest poll has Trump leading by 8 points. So, according to this latest poll, this would be a likely margin for Donald Trump. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Georgia, another one of the 7 swing states in this election. The latest poll has Trump up by 1 point, so that would be a tilt win for the former president. Now, Biden actually flipped this state in 2020, but right now it does look like Georgia is going to vote for Trump, and according to this latest poll, it would be by a tilt margin. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Hawaii. So actually no poll has come out of Hawaii since Harris entered the race, but if we're looking at the latest poll, this would be a safe margin. Now, the only reason why this is not a safe margin, the latest poll, was because Kennedy was in there, but when you take Kennedy out, it's going to be a safe margin for Kamala Harris. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Idaho. Trump led in the latest Trump to Biden head-to-head poll by 29 points. Really no surprise here. Idaho is a very Republican state, and it will go into the safe column. Next up, we have Illinois. Harris is up by 16 points. Harris really does depend a lot upon the three rock solid Democrat states, California, Illinois, and New York, and it does look like Illinois will vote for Harris by a safe margin. Now we go to Indiana. The latest poll has Trump up by 14 points, and that would be a safe margin. Then we go to Iowa, a state that has trended to the right. Now this is a little surprising. Trump is only up by 7 points in the state, but a lot of polls before that did have him up by bigger margins. But according to the latest poll, it would be a likely margin. And then we go to Kansas, a state that has turned to the left in recent years. And And right now, there isn't a poll between Trump and Harris in the state, but if we look between Trump and Biden, it's a 16-point win for him, so that's going to be a safe margin. The next state that we're going to look at is the deep red state of Kentucky. Like a lot of other states, the state does not have a poll between Trump and Harris, but when you look at the poll between Trump and Biden, it is a safe margin. The next state we're going to look at is the state of Louisiana, and just like Kentucky, there isn't a poll between Trump and Harris, but this is a safe Republican margin. Now we're going to go to the state of Maine. Maine is a really Democrat state. It voted for Biden by 9 points in 2020. If we look at the latest margin, we see that Harris is up by 7 points, which would be a slight decreasement from Biden's margin in 2020, but nevertheless, that would be a likely margin. If we look at Maine's second, we see the latest poll has Trump up by 9, which would be a likely margin. And then if we look at the first district, we see that Harris leads by 23 points, and so this would be a safe margin for Harris. Now we're going to look at the state of Maryland. Right now, Harris holds a 30-point lead in the latest poll. Now, while the presidential race is not going to be too competitive in the state, the Senate race is looking to be competitive. So, but when it comes to the presidential level, Democrats are going to win by big margins. If we look at Massachusetts, like Maryland, Harris is up by 33 points. Maryland, I'm pretty sure it's the most Democrat state in the country, might be a little behind Vermont, but that would be a safe state for Harris. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Michigan. This is one of the 7 key swing states. Right now, Harris holds a 4% lead in Michigan, so this would be a lean margin. Now, if you look at polls before that, it did show a much tighter race. Trump up by 2 points, even Trump up by 3 points, but according to the latest poll, this would be in the lean Harris column. Now we're going to look at the state of Minnesota. So according to the latest poll, Harris is up by 8 points. She definitely does do better in Minnesota because her running mate is from Minnesota and is pretty popular in the state, and so that's definitely going to help her. Now we're going to look at the state of Mississippi. Again, there isn't a poll between Trump and Harris, but this state is a very Republican state, and we'll go into the safe Republican column. Now we're going to look at Missouri. According to the latest poll, Trump is up against Harris by 14 points, which is almost a likely margin, but it's still a safe margin for the former president. So the next state that we are going to look at is Montana. Now, Montana has a very contentious Senate race, but on the presidential level, it's not too competitive. Trump up by 17 points in the state, and that is going to be a safe margin. So moving on from Montana, we have the state of Nebraska. Now, Nebraska at large and 2 of the 3 congressional districts are not going to be that competitive, but Nebraska's 2nd district is going to be competitive, and we've seen polls out of Nebraska's 2nd district showing it kind of close. So if we look at Nebraska's 2nd, we see Harris up by 9 points. I definitely don't expect her to win this district by 9 points, considering Joe Biden only won it by 6 points, but as of right now, this would be a likely margin for Harris. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of Nevada. This is one of the 7 swing states. According to the latest poll, Harris and Trump are tied. But if you look at the poll before that, we see that Trump is up by 1 point. This would be a very, very narrow flip for the former president. The next state that we are going to look at is the state of New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire, according to this poll, Harris leads by 9 points, and New Hampshire has been a Democrat state for some time. It did become pretty competitive in 2016, but according to the latest poll, this would be a likely margin. Now we're going to go to New Jersey. According to the latest poll, Harris holds a 12-point advantage, which is down from her 2020, from Biden's 2020 margin. And so this would still be a safe margin, but really on the brink of a likely margin for Harris. Next state we're going to look at is the state of New Mexico. Harris leads by 9 points in the latest poll. This would be a likely margin for Harris. The next state that we're going to look at is the state of New York. According to the latest poll, Harris leads by 19 points. Now, that would be down from Biden's 23-point margin, but that would still be a safe margin for Kamala Harris. Next up, we have the state of North Carolina, one of the 7 swing states. Trump holds a 2-point advantage in North Carolina. Now, this could become pretty close because of Hurricane Helene hitting North Carolina, so this could have effects on the race, but as of right now, it's still going to be a tilt margin for Donald Trump. Now, we're going to go to North Dakota. Trump leads by 27 points, one of the most Republican states in the country, and so this is going to be a safe margin. Next up, we have Ohio. This was once considered a swing state, but now really no longer, as it's trended very Republican in recent years. Trump leads by 7 points in the latest poll, which would make Ohio a likely margin for Donald Trump. The next state up is Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a very Republican state. The latest poll has Trump up by 32 points, a very, very big margin, and so that would be a safe margin for Donald Trump. Next state we have is Oregon. Oregon, Harris leads by 12 points, and that would be a safe margin. And then the next state that we have is the state of Pennsylvania. Now, this is really, I think this could be the deciding state in this election. The latest poll has Trump up by 2 points. Republicans have been outperforming in the early vote in Pennsylvania. Democrats still have been dominating it, but they've been making improvements from 2020. And so I do believe that Trump has the advantage, and of course the latest poll does show that Trump has the advantage. Next poll up, we have Rhode Island. Harris holds a 14-point lead in this state. This state, along with a big portion of the northeastern part of the U.S., is a very Democrat state and would go to Harris by a safe margin. Next up, we have South Carolina. Trump holds a safe 17-point lead over Harris, and that would be a safe margin. And then our next state to look at is the state of South Dakota. Now, this doesn't have a poll between Trump and Harris, but between Trump and Biden, that's going to be a safe state. Then after South Dakota, we have the state of Tennessee. Trump holds a 25-point edge in the state of Tennessee, and that would be a safe margin. Next up, we have the state of Texas, 40 electoral votes. Now, Texas has become closer in past elections, and one of the big reasons of that has been because of suburban voters in key cities around Texas, like Austin and Dallas. Right now, Trump holds a 7-point lead, and this would go into the likely characterization. So, with this projection, Donald Trump would have already passed the 270 mark to become president of the United States. So now we're going to go to our next state, which is Utah. Latest poll has Trump up by 14 points. Now that's down from the polls before that, but that would be still a safe margin for Donald Trump. Then we have the state of Vermont. Harris leads by 41 points. I think it's the most Democratic state in the country, either Vermont or Massachusetts, and so that would go to Harris by a safe margin. Next up, we have the state of Virginia. The latest poll has Harris up by 11 points. That would be 1 point better than Biden did in 2020, but nevertheless, that would be a likely margin for Harris. The next state that we have is Washington, a very Democrat state, and we see that Harris is up by 15 points, which is a safe margin for Kamala Harris. And the next state that we have up is West Virginia. As we're really nearing the end of this video, Trump is up by 27 points in West Virginia, and that would be a safe margin. And then with our second to last state that we have the state of Wisconsin. one of the 7 swing states. According to the latest polls, the last 3 polls have been even, every single one of them. But if you go 4 polls back, you see that Harris has a 1-point edge in the state of Wisconsin, and so that would be a tilt margin for Harris. And then, of course, our last state is the state of Wyoming, and I think everybody knows how this state's gonna go. It's the most Republican state in the country, and the only poll we have between Republicans and Democrats is between Trump and Biden. Trump is up by 53 points, so this is going to be a safe state in the Republican column. So there you have it. According to the latest polls, Donald Trump would get 287 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 251. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button down below and subscribe. Comment your thoughts or suggestions in the comment section down below. Shout out to Diana Barbie, our first channel member. If you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button near my channel logo. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.